welcome to today's session, and thank you so much for spending your time to share your knowledge with us.
Hey Shivani, good evening. Glad to be a part of this.
Thanks a lot. So to those who are listening here, Raman is a top CS strategist and is an influencer. I follow him on LinkedIn, great posts, by the way, and he's shared one today as well. Raman, if you take some time to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure. Just a one-liner, I'm working with Geo-Haptic Technologies as a director CS, and I've been in this industry for the past 12 to 13 years now, and pretty passionate about customer success, following a lot of people, and have personally seen this industry evolve, in our subcontinent country, India, and even in the globe, right, around the globe. So definitely pretty much excited about how new technologies are, venturing out and enhancing the CSMs around the globe. And definitely, yes, try to ensure and write stuff on social media so that, other people can learn and I can share my knowledge and learning with others. So yeah, that's about me.
Yeah, great. To those who are not following Raman, I highly recommend you guys go and follow him. So because you started probably in the customer success, maybe at the same time CS started. So I wanted to understand a few takeaways from that journey. Specifically, how do you see the space evolving from where we just had account managers to now there are CSMs, organizations have CS as a function? And how has the function evolved over the years in your experience?
I would say, when in the initial years, when we talked customer success, it was most, I would say synchronously aligned with either customer support or account management, right? It was kind of lying in the middleware somewhere, but it wasn't an individual function wherein people could say confidently that, customer success is a function. So I guess in the initial years, the focus used to be more towards, having the customer in place, building relationships, you talk about empathy, you talk about customer-centric approach, you be proactive in nature, which definitely are, an important aspect as well today. But, growing from that to the era in which we are, there have been a lot of advancements, I would say, when we say, adding important pointers like focus towards revenue. Now, when you say focus more towards revenue, it's not like, simply saying that you go tomorrow and upsell, but it's like, firstly, being more aligned towards what customer needs. What are the requirements of your customer? How well are you aligned with the goals and objectives of your customer? And how, easily are you moving towards the path to achieve those goals and objectives? Plus, while you're moving on that path, how much are you aware of the progress? You make that progress, because at the end of the day, what today matters for the success of a customer success manager is how well they are able to cater to the needs of the customer in terms of aligned with their business goals and objectives and in order to meet them. Plus, the processes that are required to connect these small dots to achieve those business goals, right? So that is something that is important. And that is like just one aspect. The second is data-centric approach, right? Now, when you say proactive, you can't just pick up the phone and tell the customer that, hey, this is something that is there. You need to do this, you need to do that. But instead, you need to talk data with the customer that, hey, you know what, I saw this, which might be a red flag. You check account health status. You set up account health status for the account. You be more aware of what is really happening on the account. And then share that data with the customer regularly so that if there is any involvement or, or any other, I would say, additional person required to kind of, get into this relationship and, enhance it more towards achieving the organizational goals, then you work like that. The point is having these setups in place, having processes in place, having data-centric approach. And then also, when you talk revenue, how much aware are you about ARR, MRR, monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, right? That is like very key. And then churn rates, retention rates, they have taken the center stage as of today. So I guess from just being a person who is acting as, a person who is there for you, being empathetic for you, being a relationship manager, to a person who is more consultant-driven, data-driven, focused towards ensuring that with their existing set of revenue, how can they add more revenue to the organization, right? How can they increase customer lifetime value? So this is the, I would say, paradigm shift that I have seen in the era from where it started to where we are.
I agree, and I think paradigm shift is the word that defines it. From being seen as people who are just there post sales, static job, to now actually driving the revenue. That's a good point. And because you've mentioned goals and how, probably CS is now where everybody in the industry is heading towards, I would continue on the same approach, asking you now that CS has evolved definitely into a function, and there's so many KPIs, like you mentioned, lifetime value, NRR, ARR, that we have to keep track of. How do you see internal collaboration? For example, I as a CSM, how well should I connect with my tech team, with my product team, or even my customer support team? How important do you see that collaboration to actually bring value to the table?
Really good question. Look at function with just don't do the talking. We also connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I say connect the dots, you cannot work in silo. You have to talk. You have to be aware. You have to be curious. You have to ask questions, irrespective of the team with whom you're working. Now, if I take smaller examples to explain this at length, we talked about sales, With sales, CS has to definitely work really closely. I know these two teams sometimes are called the worst enemies to each other, that, sales would be saying that, hey, this is right. CS is like, no, I put my foot down. That is right. But at the end of the day, these are a part of the roles and responsibilities. But it is very essential that these guys have to work as a close-knit team for the customer, because when sales is closing a deal, they are very well aware of why the customer is buying us. What is the requirement out there? What are they trying to achieve at the end of the day? Now, the sales cycle depends with the product size, but it could be somewhere between a month to 3 months, depending on the deal of the size of the deal, my bad. But while the CS is introduced, usually in a lot of SaaS organizations, it happens that there is an introduction call wherein sales simply, jumps in. It's like, hey, you know what? Hey, Mr. X, this is your CS. He's going to be your new point of contact. He's going to ensure that you have a great service. He's going to ensure that, all your problems are taken care of, all your issues are taken care of. But in my view, there has to be a pre-introduction call wherein the sales gives the handover to the CS. And, we definitely focus a lot of building these so-called templates or knowledge transfer documents, wherein whenever a sales person has closed a deal and he has to give it to a CS to work on it, he actually fills that document with key initial elements like, the size of the customer. And as I mentioned earlier, why have they bought us at the first place? Have they been using a similar product in the past? If yes, what were the pain points? How do we come in picture to to help them on this pain point? What is the key USP that helped them make this final decision? What are the expectations? What is the timeline in which he's expecting a specific ROI, right? Now, these kind of things are to be shared with the CS in a much better way, so that when he gets on the call, he should not repeat these questions in front of the customer. Rather, he should get on a call with the plan at hand. That, hey, you know what? I'm aware of what all has been done. This is my customer journey plan for you, depending if it's the annual customer. But he tells him then, I'm going to take 2-3 months in onboarding. I'm going to take another time in, ensuring that you get adoption, you get value of the product. But that will only be possible if you are completely aware of everything that a customer expects, right? So that is very key thing in this sales and CS collaboration. Plus, even the CS can help sales as well for revenue, right? If they are having some great, a relationship with the service, the ROI given, and close alignment on business goals, the CS in itself can share some new leads with the sales, in cross-sell, in references, right? So these two teams can actually help together and become a very strong asset in an organization. Like, that's one part of sales which was like a bit too long. Now, if I take another example of product, right? Product team is very essential in the company because they are the ones who are driving essentially the product. They are making the roadmap. They are building out new features day in and day out. But how do they get that input? That what is the need of the hour? That's where a CS comes in handy, because he is the one who's talking to a lot of customers. Depending on the ticket size, could be a big enterprise customer, could be an SMB, could be a mid-market. Now, from that perspective, collating all that information, right? That what is exactly what do your enterprise customers really require? What is it that they're loving about the product? What is it that they really require in the product? Similarly, it could be, different for mid-market. It could be different for SMBs. Now, all this information is collated. Now, that has to be shared regularly with the product because they can essentially then be a customer-led roadmap, at the end of the day, wherein there are no assumptions made that I believe this might work. Here it would be because I know this is required, this will work. There is a difference, right? You are moving aside from assumptions to telling that it is a very data-led and very outward-led decision that we know what is the need of the hour, and accordingly you can define the product roadmap. And the beauty of it is a customer when they are giving out or putting out time to tell you, share this feedback regularly with you. When they see things in action, they are more motivated to share these things regularly with you instead of saying that, oh, you know what, it's a generic thing that they will call me after a month, take my feedback, and then when I follow up with them, then they'll get to know, oh yeah, we are looking into it. But it's a proactive CSM and a proactive product collaboration. Here, if you focus, there's a proactive thing that comes into picture. As soon as you're getting feedback and in your product cadences, you need to relay this information back and help the product to define that roadmap. And as soon as it is defined, let the CS know, let the team know about it, let the customer know about it. That hey, thank you for your feedback. We have started working on it. This is the expected timeline. The customer is more motivated, that yeah, my time is valued. My feedback is valued. We will be more interested to share that. But that is product. Then coming to support, definitely a lot of we are with support, the things are not in place. But essentially support is the team that actually helps you identify basis ticket size, what are the major issues that people are facing, what is it that regularly is coming into action, what is it that your customers really require and are struggling with it, and basis that you can get in touch with the customer and solve the ticket, but get into that solution phase to see what can be done better, because there could be a possibility a customer is raising similar tickets week on week, right? And when you are going on your monthly business review calls or quarterly business review calls, in front of the management, they might bring this up. But if you are not prepared with what is going on the back end, you might not be able to even answer those questions. You simply say, I'll get back to you. It's the most diplomatic answer, which I personally feel is that you were not prepared. I'm sorry, you were not prepared for that call. So, that helps you be aware. So you have to, as a CSM, be completely aware. As I mentioned, it's a 360 role. These were small examples that I was giving that how a collaboration can be impactful and effective for business to grow, and also ensuring that your customers are made to feel valued and they regularly share the tool.
I think this is probably one of the good ways to put it. Like you bring together sales, you also infused product in it and also support. And what really got me excited was that the product teams, instead of thinking that this might work, should actually be more dependent on the CS team and their feedback, because they are the ones that are not just talking to customers inside the company. So instead of developing features and fixing parts of the product that may be good for the market, do it in a customer-driven manner, and that's a good takeaway. Now, the next is, because now we have moved in talking towards strategy. What I want to ask next is that, let's say that you have an onboarding process in place. Once we know that your onboarding strategy is in place and you have an adoption plan, and then you probably also have an upsell, cross-sell plan, and we'll discuss a bit more on that strategy as well. But when you have maybe a good CS process in place, how do we measure the success of it? What matrices should we rely on?
It is a very subjective question that depends on organization to organization. It is not like these are the 10 said metrics that you need to kind of, focus on to see the impact of CS. There are some universals that will be looked upon, but their priority can keep changing depending on how the organization is functioning or what is the priority for the organization. But I would say, the certain key metrics definitely would be, how are you identifying, account health? Because when you are actually trying to understand what is red, green, yellow, these are some really critical indicators that can help you identify certain lead buckets in the picture and take proactive actions to, ensure that they are handled way beforehand, wherein when you start the final discussions of, say, for example, renewals and stuff, then this surfaces and then you're like, okay, let me take an action, right? So an account health metric has to be there, wherein all the CSMs who are assigned certain accounts, a manager or a lead gets an overview of how the accounts are doing, how much is it green, how much is yellow, how much is red, and accordingly prioritize their time. That is one aspect to it. Second, definitely, which everyone might agree to it, is retention rates and churn rates. That is key metric from revenue, because ultimately, when you look into it, the end goal to measure a churn rate or a retention rate is to understand how much revenue might be at stake and how much revenue is something that we are totally having sealed in the bucket, right? So the one that is at stake is something that we need to take proactive actions, as I mentioned earlier, right? So churn rates are very important. Same goes with retention rates, and then comes the other part of the NRR, the net retention rate, the GRR, gross retention rate, and then how much ARR is one CSM handling as of today, right? These are three other things that helps you understand, is the CSM not really, I would say, stressed, overstressed, how much is he working, is he able to give his best output, or he is already working more than what is expected, because this helps in bandwidth and time management as well, which in turn would help you in task prioritization in a much better way. Because as CSMs, everyone would be aware that we are usually called, they are firefighting all the time. They are struggling all the time. They are running here and there. And then at the end of the day, we are definitely on mostly, when our day starts, we are actually in meetings, internal meetings, customer meetings. And that's you need to take that.
So, Ram, now that we are talking about strategies a bit more, I want to emphasize a little bit more on the strategy part of the customer's journey. And in your experience, how do you measure the success at, maybe where you're working right now or in general in the industry? How would you say we should measure the success of our CS strategies?
Right. So, as I was mentioning, that this is a very sensitive question, and it totally depends on how we want to track certain that they want to, capture for the CSM team. What is the priority of them? What is the need of VR? It completely depends on the size of the organization, the state in which the present organization is in. Now, the question is what essentially the universal metrics might be like, when we talk about, for example, for a customer success manager, account health metric is very important. Because at the end of the day, when you look at an account health metric, it comes with a specific logic of, say, for example, usage. It also combines information, like how much customer is logging in, depending on the way a product is used or adopted, as well as inserted from the customer. How are you kind of how not management of or all the health metrics, so that if there is a leaky bucket because of someone rage, then an action can be taken proactively instead of to kind of go through, go off the roof, and then you kind of rushing to kind of sit, right? So that's very important. Aware present status of one thing, because divided metrics in specific red or green, depending what an organization would like to call it. But for me, it is like problem in a danger. That's how we have kept it. Once in green zone or a good zone, definitely is assured that these are the people who are help for the company, who can be the ones with customer success qualified leads. The existing revenue fixed with us, leak, right? Then coming to the red zone is where you need to proactively take action, so that at the end of the day, the leaky bucket could be stopped and they could be transferred to a better zone, so that you don't need to kind of do the last minute hush or so we easily call that, CSM is firefighting at the end of the day. We don't need to get into that situation. Then this is account health. Then focusing to the other aspect is, the NRRs, the net retention rate, churn rate. Because at the end of the day, churn rate and retention rate is definitely something that helps team identify or be aware of how well a CS and a CSM team is doing. Because if there were 100 customers allocated today, and if 10 out of them are churning, on a monthly basis, that's the point where there is a red flag. Why? Because acquiring those additional 10 customers would cost company way too much instead of retaining them and getting additional value, right? So churn rates and retention rates are very important to focus on. And then, kind of going more in depth, as I was mentioning, net retention rate, and then after net, gross retention rate. And while we are doing this, the CS also needs to be very well aware of how much monthly recurring revenue are they having, how much annual recurring revenue are they handling as of today, so that they are well aware of their, accounts bucket. Basis that they can also do task or time prioritization, on the accounts. They are well aware of how much time should I be giving to certain things, certain tasks, certain accounts, because he is well aware of what has to be done. But if these metrics are not in place, if this monitoring is not in place, yes, that is where a CSM lands in a situation of firefighting all the time, right? So that is very critical. Then these days, a very essential term that I am kind of focusing on, and we in our organization also focus on, is time to value. That is very important for any CS to be 100% sure of how much value is being delivered to the customer who is, using your product or a service. It basically involves measuring the time it takes a customer to realize the full value of your product or a service after the initial and start when the customer was handed over from, or it might be when professional services was implemented, and then to the CS. That's where you kind of define that start zone to calculate time to value. You can also define various value metrics and time to value. Like say for example, the ones that signify a customer has achieved desired value from a product or a service in a month, then in a quarter. These are small milestones that will help you calculate or forecast how swiftly are you moving towards the actual goal for which this entire relationship or journey has started, right? And the customer is well aware of how they're heading. And the best part about this is, if there are misses, customer is aware, you are aware, you both can take an action. But if we wait for a 6-month, period to let the damage happen, then again, as I was mentioning, then CS gets into that zone of saying, we are firefighting, we are running here and there, we have nowhere to go. Let's not get into that situation is my call, right? So these are some essential metrics that should be universally followed throughout, and also, it helps the CS team to function in a streamlined fashion. It also helps the management to be well aware of how things are working up. And the beauty of it is that while you monitor all this, it can also help you get customer success qualified leads, customer success qualified advocacy as well. Now, customer success qualified advocacy is a very fairly new term which I came across. I love this term. Personally, I love using this term. Now, what it is all about, it's more on a qualitative aspect wherein, you are getting testimonials, case studies, willingness of customers to talk about your product or service in a webinar or even in a summit or an event, doing that word of mouth. And that will only happen when they are getting value from it, when you are getting that ROI. And again, how will that come? When you're actually monitoring the key aspect that I was talking about, right? So this actually, everything is interconnected. If you look at the journey, right? It's like, how well are you monitoring it? And at which phase a specific metric would have uttermost importance as compared to the previous one. That's how a leader should be kind of, organizing it to look at it and monitor it.
I think the point where you mentioned that retention is a lot more easier and is so much budget friendly than acquiring new customers and tying the whole story back.
Right.
And customer experience really contributes is is a very important key takeaway from at least this question that we have encountered. That's a very fair point. And now, because you mentioned milestones, Raman, that brings me to the question that every step of the journey that customer experiences with their CSM is an opportunity for the CSM to make an upsell, to close that cross sell. But in this whole journey where customer is now your best friend right now and will continue to be with you. So in this entire journey of being with them, helping them understand the product, achieving their business goals, of course, do you have any milestones? Do you plan any milestones that at this juncture is something important and these matrices should be taken care of? So are there any specific milestones that CSMs or leaders should be closely monitoring? For example, like you mentioned, time to value, a very crucial metric. So when should the companies decide that maybe in 3 months or in first month, you should have your time to value? So are there any milestones that you measure?
Yeah, sure. In the milestones piece, if I look at it from a perspective, a customer break down the concept when the customer is handed is the initial need to do thing, right? It's a very key milestone. On those key deliverables, that a customer has to from their side building stone of that relationship with customer, right? So in onboarding phase, to be well aware of your customer.
So, Rama, in your previous answer, you have emphasized on milestones. For example, TTV was one of them, time to value. So, in your experience, do you plan milestones where you let your team know that at these specific points, at these milestones, you should know about these things, and by now the customer should have realized value with you, this kind of value, so many business goals achieved. So when you're planning the customer journey, do you also plan milestones?
Yes. While we talk about milestones, it's very important to firstly understand how do we chalk out a customer success journey for the customer at hand, right? And as soon as the customer is handed over to the CS, the very first phase that a customer goes through is the onboarding phase, which is the very critical milestone, I would say, in the start of a relationship of a CS with the customer. Why? Because that is the building stone or a building block for building a good relationship with the customer. And that will happen in a successful way when you are more aware of what the customer requires. You are more aware who is going to be your spot, who is going to be the decision maker, who is going to, be the one who is going to talk to you on every day, who is their tech team. So being, fully aware of who all are the people who are going to work with you. That is like just knowing the team. Second piece in onboarding again is drawing a training format, right? Now, when you draw a training format or a training structure for the customer, you have to be very much aligned or aware of how that training is customized as per their needs. You can't do a vanilla offering to the customer saying that, this is a 1 hour slot, a demo, look at it. I expect that you might have doubts. I'll help you in doubts. It doesn't work like that. And also in training, you don't need to demo a vanilla product to the customer. In training, you need to tell them that, hey, Mr. XYZ, you have bought it for this. To do this, you use the product in this way. That will ensure that you are getting closer to what you have signed up for. Instead of telling them, we have this, we have that, this product has this product has that, you need to tell them, you had this pain point, this is the answer. You had this problem, this is how you overcome it. You might face this issue, you have to work like that. You give them solutions, you give them alterations, so that I know that the customer will get back to you, but the training has to be, customized completely towards which caters to the needs of the customer. So this is a small milestone in the onboarding structure that you have created, right? Now, again, I would say training is again a small bit in onboarding. Post training, you need to see how customer is using it. Right now, they're not even in adoption phase. Right now, in onboarding, we need to know how much is the customer capable to work on the product. How much is he able to, run through? in options. Say, for example, even if I take the example of Smart Carrot, a CS who has been trained to use this product, he needs to know where can he get reports and what kind of reports are going to, make his life easier, make him more aware that he can share internally. What kind of dashboards are needed to be set and where can you look at it? I'm just taking the example from your product perspective. But the point here is that it has to be customized completely, right? So in onboarding, we focus on this. As soon as we are, going more towards the journey, in the milestone piece, we also need to be more aware of how are we celebrating small wins, that is achievement of smaller milestones. You can't have a very big target or a milestone or a value delivery that has to be done to the customer. And then at the end of the year, you kind of open up everything from point A, B, C, D, E. You tell them, oh, this was a miss, this was something that we achieved. I would say initially, cadences have to be in place wherein you can tell the customer what is going on, what is not. And in terms of milestones, if they have crossed the onboarding phase, depending on the solution, depending on the product, an onboarding phase might vary from a month to a quarter, right? Now, at the end of the onboarding phase, you have to get on a call wherein you get the relevant stakeholders from the customer side so that you make them aware that, these are certain things that we have done and achieved in onboarding and, value the association of the customers as well, the stock as well, who was coming on regular cadences with you because he has been investing time. You need to appreciate their efforts as well. You can't just go gaga that, hey, you know what, we have done this. No, it was a collaborative effort. That's what we as CS stand for, right? So that is like one piece of it. Now, after the onboarding phase is complete, right, then you are jumping to the adoption phase. In adoption phase, the low-hanging fruits that you were looking at in onboarding now would be a bit more complicated. Now, when I say complicated, now you are going to take another step up, right? When you're taking step up, the targets, the goals definitely get more complicated, can be, more critical as well. At that point of time, how essentially or how, in a consulting fashion or in an outward fashion, you're helping the customer to work on goals. How easily are you ideating it? How easily are you forecasting things that can go wrong, that can go right if certain actions are taken on a timely basis? That is another milestone that we have to look at very closely. So the customer is well aware of if they are putting in 2-3 hours on your product on a daily basis, they have a resource who is working on it on a daily basis. How much are they going to grab from it? How much are they, working in a way that at the end of the year they will be there what they had signed up for, right? So that is another important aspect, the adoption phase. Now, after the adoption phase, you have to look at the value delivery. That is the last 3 months that is left, right? That is wherein you have to see what has been delivered, how regularly were you talking to them, where are you in terms of goal achievement, are you falling short of it, are you kind of, still on track? If yes, are you going to miss it, are you going to achieve it, right? And as soon as you are in those last 3 months, in a 12-month association, you also need to kickstart the discussions over renewal, upsell. But you can't do it if the customer is well aware of what has been the report card on a monthly or a quarterly basis of the past, months wherein they had invested a resource, they had invested money, they had invested time. And at the end of the day, we get back to them, oh, you know what, there was a problem. Oh, you know what, there was a bug. The customer is not there to listen to that. And as consultants, as CSMs, we are the ones who are driving this. So we have to be more aware of it. So I guess onboarding phase is a very critical milestone. Adoption phase is another milestone wherein you check how much are they using it. And then celebrating these milestones with the customer, acknowledging their efforts on emails also, ensures that how much we value their relationship, right? And in this entire span of celebrating milestones, because the last milestone definitely would be when we talk renewal, when we talk upsells that, this is how it is. And not just in value, even if you're not revenue focused, trust me on this. And I say it to my CSMs all the time. For CSMs to excel on revenue, you do not need to be revenue focused. You need to be solution focused and idea focused. That's it. The customer sees value, he himself will pay value. That's where even if you please him, he needs to revenue, we need experience. I'm sorry, he's not giving. But totally focused what they kind of achieved it. Around to them they are equally invested in, they would want to invest money because they know this is yielding them returns. So this is how we are looking at it, and this is how we work on it.
I think the part where you mentioned that you celebrate milestones really hit
Right.
home because, like, you've been mentioning that we are firefighting all the time. So, in this entire process where CSM is so heavily focused, are you finding value? Am I able to help you? You're wearing the consulting hat. But what we forget to miss, and one of my managers used to say that, pick out those moments of joy where
Right.
something and share it with your customers. That's a good takeaway from this one. That's a good point, Raman. Which brings me to the next question, I'll take it back to retention a little bit. Also, I know you wrote something about on LinkedIn today where you mentioned that retention is easier, is like I said before, it's a lot more budget friendly as well. And given how the economic downturn is these days, where companies, there are budget cuts, budget freezes as well, sales cycles are getting longer and longer.
Right.
How do you see retention as a metric taking the center stage of growth?
It's a wonderful question because in these days, wherein the focus is more towards uh, putting a limit on everything in terms of cost to the company, right? Retention and reducing churn rates has taken a center stage because it is directly, correlated with customers' lifetime value. And it has a very major significance in the entire customer journey for the business or the SaaS organization. Now, how does it happen is that if you have been retaining customers for quite some time, they value your product, they know the service, they are confident in terms of using it. And that has increased their customer lifetime value automatically, right? And then that is increased. Now the company who was spending around, say for example, per year, 10,000 or even thousands of dollars in acquisition cost, it actually impacts that directly to invest a lot because while you might have a budget, though it sounds theoretically it sounds simple, but trust me, if the companies follow this, invest in retaining or invest in strategies to retain customers, they are going to actually automatically reduce cost of acquiring a customer because it's an industry proven metric that around it is costlier around 7 to 10 times to acquire a new customer instead of getting value or more money from an existing one. Simple as that, right? If your customers' lifetime value is there, if your customers are turning into your own marketeers, right, wherein they are talking about your product, they are helping you acquire customers through cross-sell, upsell, getting referrals, right? What best a company could think of. Though and also while I say it doesn't really boil down to that situation that the content marketeers or other things, other people, their value doesn't reduce in the organization because of this, but rather they can do more on it. Wherein in a budget friendly way, they can do a lot more using retention from customer success. Earlier they were looking for, getting budget approvals because they need to be, having things in place for marketing stuff. Right now, what they need to do, they need to leverage your relationship, talk to the customers,
Right.
get them on board, sign up for webinars. I'm just giving examples. It could be manifold, but sign them up for events, sign them up for writing case studies, testimonials with you, and let them do your word of mouth. And that can only be possible if the retention rate is higher. And if the customer retention rate in your organization is higher, definitely it is directly proportional to customer lifetime value. And if that is higher, again, there is a direct proportion in terms of reducing the customer acquisition cost, right? So it is, if you look at it again, right, as I have been mentioning repeatedly, and I don't know why I do that, but if you see, these are like dots in success. If it is figured well, trust me, you have solved that jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
It's all, small areas of puzzles that you need to have handy with you and put them in the block when exactly it is necessary. And at the end of it, you will have a clear picture. And that's where, even in our organization specifically, we do focus on, retention rates. We do focus on ensuring, we are monitoring customer lifetime value because that to our company is also very essential and important because we have also realized at the end of the day, in such, I would say, economic downturn that we are going through, people are being budget friendly, but if your own customers help you be budget friendly. What's wrong in that?
No, oh, that's a win-win. That's a dream of a CSM. That's my own dream. Please,
Right.
please review. So it is now because we are talking about retention and expansion. In your experience, what strategies have you developed or have you learned in time that have worked in doing those upsells and having those retention numbers up?
Right. I would say the one statement answer to that is delivering value. Right. You deliver value to your customers. Trust me, your customers are going to look up to you because a CSM's main role, we always say that as we have also been discussing, a CSM does this, a CSM does that. It's just like, CSM is a superhuman as of today. But, this superhuman's main focus has to be on value delivery that can be quantified and resonate to the ROI of the customer. Because at the end of the day, what matters is what the customer has acquired by acquiring, right? That is the main goal. Now, there are some good practices or best practices that I have learned or, in my experience throughout is that, they are very small nuances for which you do not need to be, I would say, pretty much savvy and go through a lot of information on the internet. A lot of people are writing, but it's very simple, and these things are going on. When it's really, I would say, uh, it's not because people.
Raman, you talked about retention and how it helps everybody. It helps the CSM, and of course, your customers become your voice. They become your marketeers, like you said. So, in your journey, and you've spent significant amount of time in the CS industry, what are your learnings on strategies to work on your expansion and retention?
Right. One thing that I've learned from my past experiences towards catering to this customer is that uh, value delivery, right? Now, it is very essential for a customer success team to be focused or have that mindset of value delivery to the customer. Because at the end of the day, if the customer is getting what they have signed up for from your own product or a service, right, then you do not need to pester the customer or run behind the customer or to retain them. They are more or less happy to be retained because why would they want to move to another vendor, another CSM, if they are happily achieving their goals? They have developed that relationship with you. So the CSM, I never focus to be revenue centric or revenue, thought to ensure that, oh my God, there is this number that I have to achieve. My complete focus here has been, you know, um, ensuring that the customer is delivered what they have signed up for in simple terms. Now, in order to do this, there are definitely some smaller nuances or regular, I would say, work processes that, if followed regularly, can ensure that you are able to easily achieve the goal that you guys have all started this relationship for, right? Now, the very first thing that think about or talk about is uh, having that data centric mindset. You can't just always, get in touch with the customer and tell them that, hey, you have or you have logged in these many times. You're logged in that you have been using this feature. I guess he's already aware. If he's logging 3 or 4 times in a day, he's aware that he's logging in the dashboard. The point is, what is the value that your customer is going to drive from this conversation that you're having with them? That's essentially how a CS also owns his own, I would say, imagery in front of the customer. Because if the customer feels that if all of what this guy is speaking can be shared on email, there is no point of setting up calls. Even he might not even come out, he might ghost you, right? I've also written something on this that the customer might ghost you. It's like, it's better that you drop an email, drop me a text, I'm okay. But if you really have that value essence, then after three, like, I just, follow every meeting, maybe a video call, the customer ends up with a table. Simple as that. There is no actionable. What's fruitful. This is one thing that we'll look at. The other part is being transparent. Transparent. the CX, because a lot of people say that uh, you have to think like it, but at the end of the day, like well, well, instead of we are management incidents are usually facing two issues. But if it is a people issue, then an has into picture where you ensure customer gets the information what is going on because that piece is in the business directly. So there comes into picture that it is lying with this bullet, it be there, my product, the ETA that is expected. I will give an example, right? Say, for example, if there is a feature that a customer requests for, and it is a very important feature. So how do you tackle that? The idea might be that we don't have it, or the other way is being transparent, having a word with the product team, finding a solution mindset. Wearing that thinking hat on. That if I don't have A, can I actually do B plus C and get A? How do you get to that? That's where your thought has to be, you have to think manifold. It can't just be, I am aware of A, it is not there, it's done. We can't be in that situation as of today. So if the customer requires, what is that CSM doing? And then essentially, the other part to it is, if I'm getting a feature request from a customer, might be enterprise, am I also trying to understand about the same feature with the other customers and identifying that is there a need actually? But they haven't been vocal about it. If yes, we have found out a feature that is missing in the product, which we need to work on, right? And it is data, and it is approved because we have that data. We have customers asking for it, right? Again, another instance, but how are you working on it, right? This is another factor that is very important. Then thirdly, as I was talking about, is how closely are you monitoring the progress in this customer journey? And when I say progress, as I mentioned, the MDRs, UBRs are one aspect of showcasing it. But how well are you able to wait, these goals with in alignment to the customer's business goals? You can't say that in a quarter, hey, you know what, there were 0 support tickets raised, and you were able to, our product uptime was 90%, 99%, and it was great. Good for you. You guys are doing good. But what about the customer? And with all of this happening, the customer is still not happy. It's like, yeah, it's good, but at the end of the day, we find out something else. And I don't see any movement happening. I'm sorry, but then there is a problem. So how are you closely monitoring and how closely you envision that how easily are you moving towards the achievement of the business goal is very important, from the customer's angle as well. So it cannot be a company's angle. You have to look at it from a customer's angle and see how success defines itself, right? So this is another aspect of looking at it. Then, when I say transparency awareness, we also need to be, let or ensure that the customer is also completely aware of everything that is happening on the product. That is the product roadmap. That is, how essentially the feature requests are being taken into account. And then also, while we do this, every quarter, what we do personally is try to take NPS or CSAT, from the customer. And it is very important and critical because in a value journey, or if I take it as a 12-month journey, in the quarter, the CSAT or NPS, if it is going up or down, there are multiple ways to capture it. But in a quarterly way, you can actually identify the trend that, hey, we were sitting at a 4 when we started. If it's a 5 scale CSAT or NPS is 10, we were sitting as promoters in the first 2 quarters. What happened in the third quarter that we became detractor? What was the probable reason for it, right? You're capturing those trends. And then while you're capturing this, you're outrightly talking to the customer as well. What really happened? What went wrong? Where are we going? So taking feedback, taking NPS CSAT, measuring that trend to ensure that how you are moving, how you are performing, and ensuring the customer feels heard, right? And in the end of the day, definitely, having a dashboard in place that is talking out or calling out the account health status of the customer. Because that also really helps you to be aware of everything in terms of how the customer is performing. You might be perceiving that the customer is happy, but account health metric is showing a different story altogether. And this is something that I've personally seen. That you always say that, hey, the customer is really happy. I had a great with him. He was all, and suddenly when you are looking at the account health metric with the specific logic that you might have said, you are looking at, oh my God, he's fallen from green to yellow. So he's having that relationship great with you. But from a business perspective, that relationship is not doing well. We are definitely here to make friends with our customers, but at the end of the day, what he is bothered about is ROI. And this friendship will end if there is no ROI, if there is no value delivery, right? So
Right.
these are some critical aspects that you need to look at and that I personally follow to ensure that we deliver. And one last thing, though I've been talking a lot about customer, we also need to talk about customer success team, right? That while we are all following our retention, we look at value delivery. What or how can I enable my customer success team to work on that? How can an organization enable their CS team to work with a free mind, to work in a more motivated fashion, or to work towards the business goals, right? So here you have to imbibe the culture in the team, in the customer, in an organization where customer success team is valued. You check their bandwidth allocation as a leader. You need to check their bandwidth allocation. You need to check, are they really overpowered? Are they really overstressed? Are they really is the major time running? Is they running around? And you as a leader are not able to fix it. You're not, kind of taking decisions that can really simplify their life in the organization. And also, how much automation are you able to do? Because as CS, I believe this is a story throughout the globe that you might be, maintaining some sheets. And that's the age old story.
Right.
Even after there are automations, you might be having some sheets. But the sheets those sheets, if they are like in a very okay manner, like one or two, still okay. But then if you're maintaining around 10, 20 sheets and expect them to kind of, go through it at the end of the day, fill it up, coming back to the next day, and then like you are like, I'm doing a data operations job, yeah. Why am I in this, right? You kind of question yourself. So as a leader, as a manager, you also need to understand how much are you able to automate stuff? How much are you able to envision that these tasks are repetitive in nature? These tasks are taking a lot of time of my CSMs. Let me sit with my dev, let me sit with my product team, fix this, automate this so that they can focus towards their customers. We as CS leaders or we as an organization have to give space to our CSM. Look, our journey of value delivery, falling uh, which are if that that don't reach also. While we focus a lot on customers, we also need to CSM are given that avenue, given that space, grow cater to our customers.
Couldn't agree more. Like you've covered all these aspects so eloquently, tying down the requirements of the customers, their business goals, and how organizations, instead of heavily drilling down on their strategies so much, should focus on making sure that the goals of the customers are met. And of course, the bandwidth of the team is of prime importance. Somebody owning maybe 50 accounts is not that feasible anymore. You won't be able to deliver value. So I know we've talked about customers a lot, but this is one last question, again, centering around customers. So in a scenario where CSMs are handling different kinds of customers, they're mid-market, they're enterprise, they're also small-scale customers from new businesses or startups that you started interacting with, how crucial it is for CSMs to rightly profile the customers, understand their strength, their weakness when this post-sales happens with them. Like, for example, the sales is done and this is your account, and just go ahead, do the first call and do the discovery. How important it is for the CSM to understand how close this profile is to our ideal customer profile. Where do we need to focus more, and where we can be a little relaxed because customer has this process already sorted out.
You know, the uh, I for a yes, uh, definitely. And I talk to you think jumping on the call, there will be scenarios, there will be scenarios where it can be an expectation miss. Yes, the
Raman, we've talked so much about customers, and your last point focused so much around the team itself, where the focus should also be around how much bandwidth is the team handling. But I'll take one last question, tying it back to the customers. How much focus should CSMs have on profiling their customers, understanding their strength and weakness when the customers are given to them for onboarding and they are with the customers for the rest of their journey? Now, each organization has their ideal customer profile, and how crucial it is for CSMs to identify how close this customer is to an ICP, where we need to work a lot more harder, and where we can be a little, customer has sorted this out. Any thoughts around that?
One thing is that as a CS, you cannot take any customer easy. Trust me on that. Even if they are 100% aware of the nitty-gritties in a product, at the end of the day, we are the ones who are going to drive this, right? So, one thing is that we cannot definitely take it, but yes, at a certain way or at certain milestones, we can be relaxed. That, okay, fine, this is going to, right? But now when we talk about the ICP, from a SaaS perspective or a SaaS business perspective, look, an ICP would be an ideal customer profile, which is, who can use the product, who is the right fit, understanding that, this is the right market for our product. Let's push our product in this market. Sales job is to kind of push it, get the deals to closure and get it on the table. And then CS comes into picture, right? Now, there would be scenarios, and I've personally seen these scenarios, wherein the customer has bought the product, they were aligned, and when everything happens, when the CS gets on a call and discussing that, it is coming to that, it is an expectation mismatch. We suddenly realize that, what, I believe we have signed up for something wrong, or I was expecting this from the product, but while you're telling me, it is not fitting well into what we wanted to achieve. So, for a CS, an ICP could be where they can go relax, but it will never be 100% scenario wherein they receive exactly the customer who fits into the bucket. Because if that was the case, then trust me, there was not a need of a CSM. Because then the journey would have gone through. We are needed because at some point, Sam is also aware that these guys are the ones who will be identifying needs. So these guys are the ones who will be helping customer understand they have made the right decision. CS has done their job. They have closed the deal. They are out of the picture. You are the one who have to handle it. You have to build this relationship, right? So now coming back to the question and also talking about an instance. Let's say, for example, if there is an expectation mismatch, the customer says, hey, you know what? This is not what I signed up for. This is, you are saying this cannot happen, which is a problem. This can be a deal breaker. Now, with CSM, there are two mindsets, as I mentioned. One is you keep all your ammunition down, run, go to the management, go to the sales and start screaming that, hey, you know what? This is the wrong customer. This is a red flag. Can't work. Can't do it. You figure it out. Or, you refund their money. And, you kind of do the hues and cries and raise it. Or else, there is another way to do it, which I personally do. So it doesn't sound easy, but you raise a flag to the team that, hey, you know what? There is a situation that has risen. But let's get, as a team, let's get on a call. Firstly, let's identify what the customer is now coming up with the requirement. What can we do to help them? There will be a possibility wherein you cannot achieve the 100% of it in one go. But tell the customer that, hey, you know what, at this point of time, out of the 100%, we can do 40-50%. But don't end that conversation there. After 50%, yeah, how are you going to help them that you have project? And you know what, the high value kind of look one up. Then the other stuff is going to picture. It's also things are spread. Looking regularly about when a is going to release to ensure that they use it. Because Easiest way is telling them, sorry, can't happen. Difficult or the consultancy way, or the way a CSM should enact here is, let me figure this out. That's the difference of the mindset that we require as well as of today as CSM, that we make people aware. And also at that point of time, you also can't, pick up a CS function flag and go around running in the management or in the company that, hey, for CS team, we kind of, say, we revolt this customer is wrong and all. But you have to stop on, tell them as a collaborative team, hey, from sales, from product, guys, let's get on a call. Let's see what best can we do. We can't lose this customer. We have to get that seriousness around, right? So an ICP can vary, but the thought process for a CSM has to be the same. So there is a difference. You as a CSM can get customers which can be ideal ICPs, which can be very far from an ICP. How do you ensure all of these customers turn into an actual ICP? That's the beauty of a CSM here.
I think this is probably the most important statement you have made. I mean, you've talked very passionately about so many aspects of customer success, right from strategies of onboarding to how important retention is, how do we drive it, value. But the point where you mentioned that you will get all kinds of customers close and very far from ICP, but turning them into ICP, that's a key takeaway. That can be the quote of the episode. Raman, you've talked at length about the entire customer journey. If somebody listens to this, they can actually plan their whole department around the strategies you've given out. So as a closing thought, what would you recommend to a team that is in CS or a lead that, if you do a few things this way, if you deliver value in this way, it will differentiate you from your competitors? Because for every aspect of SaaS, for every kind of service, there are so many products now. So how does a leader make sure that they stand out?
That's a beautiful question, I guess, because, that is the differentiator that you provide in a service or a product that ensures that a customer sticks to you, right? And he doesn't go. But while we talk about this, it is also very important from a leader's perspective. What are we doing the growth of its own team, right? His customers will grow, his revenue will grow, responsibilities grow. But if his team grows, in their skill set, in their offerings, trust me, the value delivery would be more seamless, more mature, there will be less firefighting, more processes that would be discussed upon, right? So the best way, and that's what I personally have done, is if you are new in a role, in a job, in a company, don't rush. Just firstly figure out what's going on. Be aware of the surroundings. Make notes of it, from a company perspective, from a team perspective, what is broken, what needs to be fixed. But don't just jump on fixing it, right away, because the company has found there is an issue. That is the reason you have been hired. But the point is, the company doesn't expect you to fix it overnight. They know that this guy would do it or this person would do it, but let them do it in their seat space. And that's where if you are, managing a team, if you are a leader, when you are hired, don't jump into fixing things. Focus, have one-on-one, have discussions with CSMs, understand their own characteristics, understand what really works well for them. I joined, I could see there were certain points which really needed to be streamlined, but I never jumped on it. My first way was I wanted to know my team well. I wanted to know what are their struggles, and that is work related. But I also wanted to know what are their hobbies, what they enjoy doing. You know what? If you are these smaller aspects of an individual, you can identify the traits of the person, and you know that what is going to work well for them, and in what fashion should we talk to them so that it is more acceptable as compared to just imposing it on them. So you need to know people really well. And it's not about just your team. While you're talking to sales, while you're talking to support, those people, figure out the characteristics of these people, understand them deeply. And then while you talk to them, understand, what are they passionate about. And then basis that you focus on strategies. But then the other part to it is, while everyone is talking about issues, find out common traits about it. Is it people problem? Is it process problem? Is it management problem? Is it product problem? Define them in your own ways. And for a customer success manager, if I was going to talk about, again, in their case, if there is a bucket of customers that is going to be, handed over to them, you need to talk to the customer, understand what have they been going through till date, how their experience has been, what kind of issues have they faced, product-wise, service-wise, CSM-wise, and then figure out the common traits through it. And for a leader, do the same thing. Find the common traits through it and prioritize what has to be actioned upon. Don't again jump on it. Prioritize what has to be done, list it out, now focus your mind on solutioning. One thing that I've kind of heard people running, oh my God, I got to know this. I've gotten it, let me fix it. It doesn't work like that. You take this, you solution it out. After that, while you have done this, right, now comes the part of processes. Identify what all processes are in place. How well are they being followed? You need to be a close observer. How well are they being followed? Even in CSM's case with the customer, there might be cadences in place. How you well to be actually at it. How agency, how value turn talking about two guys from the they are the need of the hour, and then we should talk. And you also need to be of how technology if you automate like the talk this using it for emails you can understand information as to if you want to even automate things from GPT that is going to streamline processes like reminders, as I mentioned, email, understanding even key aspects in customer success journeys. What should I talk about to what should I talk to the customer in my first 3 months? Even if you're not getting that info from anyone, you can get it from ChatGPT. Again, these are some examples. The point that I'm trying to make here is how well are you aware of technology that can really help you streamline things, that can help you automate repetitive tasks so that your complete focus is towards customer value delivery. Now, customer value delivery is universal for the leader, for the company, as well as the CSM. But the approaches that these three teams have to take would be completely different at their own respective levels, right? So if they are aware of all this, trust me, they will not only help the companies grow, but they themselves grow in their own roles with these added skill sets that will definitely help them contribute more better. Again, in the organization or wherever they are in their life journey, even personally they grow, right? So even a CSM needs to go 360 while he's communicating 360, So that's the beauty of it. Be more aware, be curious, don't rush, stay calm, prioritize your task, solution it out easily, and I believe you are already on the path of being a successful customer success manager or a leader.
Very well put. I think this summarizes not just everything that we have discussed, but also the right approach to getting there. Raman, I could not thank you enough for making time for this call. Really appreciate you sharing everything that you have learned over the years. And I mean, for me personally, this conversation has been very enriching.
Thank you. This was amazing. And, you guys providing a platform to people like us to share these knowledge and experiences. And also, hopefully, others who listen to it might gauge or learn from it what better it could be, So, thank you so much for rather organizing this and taking this initiative from Smart Carrot to, interview people or CS people who have been, serving long in this industry.
Great. I look forward to collaborating with you again, Raman. Thank you so much for making time again.
Thank you, Zira.